Hello students, in this video we are going to learn passivization. Before going to the topic, we are going to read a mini saha together. While reading the mini saha, try to find the difference in the subject if there is any. Look at the mini saha on the screen. Now let's read together. 4 friends went on a journey. After walking, a forest was found. They agreed to search food separately and share everything among them. Fruits were brought by the first person. Honey was brought by the second person. The third person found only water and brought it. The fourth person only washed his hands to eat. Hello students, I hope you enjoy reading the mini saha. Do you think the fourth person is lazy? Yes, he is. Now, let's list the subject in each sentence from the mini saha. The subjects are 4 friends, a forest, they, fruits, honey, the third person and the fourth person. Based on these subjects, do you find any possibility to make groups? Yes, there are. Then how many groups can we form out of these subjects? Of course, we can make 2. We can divide these subjects into 2 groups. 4 friends, they, the third person and the fourth person. These are from the first group. You can see these subjects refer to only people. A forest, fruits, and honey are from the second group. You can see these subjects refer to only things. The first group refers to actually the doer of the actions in the sentences. The second group does not refer the doer of the action. Then what is it? The second group falls into the title of the video, Passivization, in which subjects are affected by the action. In this video, we are going to learn what is passivization, why should we learn passivization, it is like in what situation we have to use passivization, how to make passive sentences and how to change active voice to passive voice. Before getting to the topic, we ought to know what needs to be known grammar tools. A tool, it is something that helps you to do a particular activity. Here, tools refers to basic grammar that must be learnt before learning other grammar. Most of the time, it is common to be heard that grammar is difficult. It seems difficult, but it is not. Whenever we learn grammar, we need to know that there are some other grammar topics to be learnt before learning the other grammar. It would behave like the basics. In such case here, we must be learnt these grammar topics before learning passivization. We are not going to discuss in detail. We are going to know what they are. Sentence pattern, verb, transitive verb, intransitive verb, verb, present, past, past participle, tense, present, past and future. In each category, simple, continuous, perfect, perfect continuous. Pronoun, subjective pronoun, objective pronoun. Be verb, am, is, are, was, were, will be and shall be. Now we move to our topic, passivization. It is better to go from general to specific. What is general here is voice. Voice is a form of a verb. It shows whether the subject of a sentence performs the action or is affected by it. For example, India beat Sri Lanka. First, let's see the structure of the sentence. There are three parts: subject, verb, and object. In this sentence, India is the doer of the action. Since it does the action, it is called agent of the sentence. It doesn't matter the position it holds in the sentence. Whoever or whatever does the action in the sentence, it is called the agent of the sentence. Beat is the action in the sentence. Object is affected by the action in general. Here, Sri Lanka is the object which is affected by the action beat. If the subject does the action in the sentence, it is called active voice. Active in the active voice refer to active subject in the sentence. Look at the same sentence in a different view. Sri Lanka was beaten by India. There are subject, verb, object in the sentence. Sri Lanka is the subject in the sentence. It does not perform the action, but it is affected by the action. Was beaten is the action in the sentence, and it refers to the same meaning in the active voice. India is the object here, but it does the action. So it is called the agent. And it is introduced by the preposition by in the sentence. Here, the subject of the discussion is not who performed the action, but who is affected by the action. When the subject is affected in the sentence, it makes the sentence passive. Passive in the passive voice refers to the passive subject in the sentence. Now, let's compare both sentences together. India beat Sri Lanka is an active voice. Sri Lanka was beaten by India is a passive voice. Do you find any difference in the action in active voice and passive voice? The answer is no. There is no difference between active voice and passive voice in terms of the action. Then you may ask a question: why should we use active voice and passive voice in English? The answer lies in the subject. In English, subject plays very important role in the sentence. When your discussion is about India, you use active voice. When your discussion is about Sri Lanka, then you use passive voice. The priority of the subject plays an important role whether you use active voice or passive voice in English. So, it depends on your subject of the discussion. Then you may ask another question: why should we give such importance to the subject? Because it is like any other element in the sentence, just like complement and adjunct. In English, the subject in the sentence is very important. It is the first element in the sentence, so it introduces your topic. Passive verbs allow you to highlight the person or thing affected by the action rather than the doer of the action. They also make it possible to concentrate on the process rather than the participants. Passive verbs allow you to describe the same event from different point of view. So, based on these sentences, we can come to the conclusion that your subject of the discussion make you use active voice or passive voice. If your subject performs the action, you should use active voice. If your subject is affected by the action, then you should use passive voice. Look at the same passive voice in a different way. Sri Lanka was beaten in the World Cup final. Here, the surprise is that there is no agent in the sentence. Such passive voice is called agentless passive voice. Even without the agent, the passive voice is acceptable. So, the agent is not the compulsory element in the passive voice. Earlier, we have learned that the passive voice subject is affected by the action. Now we learn that the agent is an optional element in the sentence. There are some common situations in which we prefer to use passive voice to active voice. Let's see one by one in what situation we prefer to use passive voice. Even without the agent, passive voice is acceptable. There are some common situations in which we prefer passive voice to active voice. Let us see one by one why we use passive voice. We use passive voice when there is a change in the focus of the subject. Look at the example here. The King Karihalan built the Kallanai Dam. The Kallanai Dam was built by the King Karihalan. In both sentences, there is a shift in the focus of the subject. In the first sentence, the focus is the King Karihalan, but not the Kallanai Dam. In the second sentence, the focus is shifted to the Kallanai Dam. The subject of the discussion is the Kallanai Dam, not the King Karihalan. Let's go to another situation where we use passive voice. We use passive voice when the doer of the action is unknown. For example, window was broken in Balu's house. Here, someone broke the window in Balu's house. We do not know who broke the window in Balu's house. We cannot accuse anyone without knowing the fact. In such situation, we do not say who broke the window, but what was broken is expressed. Sometimes we use passive voice when a general truth is stated. For example, traffic safety has been studied as a science for a century. When it comes to general truth, the agents are people in general. So, the agent need not be mentioned in this context. We use passive voice while writing reports or science research papers. Here, reports refer to reports in general. Light can be perceived by the human eye. In this sentence, the agent is given. But our preference is on light. So, we can use passive voice. So far, we have learned in what situation we should use passive voice. Now, we move to analyze the verbal structure in the passive voice. The garbage was thrown on the street. The verbal phrase in the given sentence is was thrown. It is the combination of to be verb and past participle of the verb. To be verb shows the tense of the passive voice, and past participle shows the subject is not the doer of the action, but it is affected by the action. Irrespective of the tense, the structure of the passive verb, to be verb and past participle is strictly followed to make passive voice. Now we are going to see how to convert active voice to passive voice. For example, Akhilan buys a watch. Whenever you are going to change active voice to passive voice, first you need to analyze the sentence structure, because there are other elements like complement and adjunct in the sentence, but only the object in the active voice can become the subject in the passive voice. Other elements like complement and adjunct will remain in the same position just like they are in the active voice. Akhilan is the subject, buys is the verb, a watch is the object. The following changes happen in the conversion from active voice to passive voice. First step, the object in the active voice, a watch, takes the position of the subject in the passive voice. Second step, active voice verb to passive voice verb. Buys to is bought. Be verb should concord with the subject and represent the tense in the passive voice. So, is followed by a watch and represents simple present tense. Following is, buys is turned as bought to represent the subject of the sentence does not perform the action, but it is affected by the action. The third step is to include the agent in the active voice at the end of the passive voice. It is introduced by. So Agilan to by Agilan. Let's watch again. The steps are followed to convert active voice to passive voice. First step, object to subject, a watch to a watch. Second step, active voice verb to passive voice verb, buys to is bought. Third step, subject to object, Agilan to by Agilan. Agilan buys a watch is transformed to be a watch is bought by Agilan. Let's go to another sentence. Mohan did not sell books is converted to be as books were not sold by Mohan. Here, the sentence is given in the negative sense. When you are going to change positive sentence from active voice to passive voice, positive sense should be followed in the passive voice. When you are going to change negative sentence from active voice to passive voice, then the negative sense should be followed in the passive voice. I hope you understand how to change active voice to passive voice. Now our focus is going to be only in the changes in the tenses. Though the verbal phrase in the passive voice carries the structure to be verb and past participle, it has to incorporate the elements of each tense. So hereafter, our focus is that how to change only the verb, because in all the tenses, object in the active voice becomes a subject in the passive voice. Subject in the active voice becomes the object in the passive voice. So there is no change in interchanging subject and object. The difference is there only in the tenses. Look at the example. Inian cultivates the land becomes the land is cultivated by Inian. Here, is cultivated assures that it is passive voice in simple present, because is refers to simple present, cultivated refers to passive voice. Same way, carrying the elements of each tense, each verb is transformed to be passive. Let's move to simple past tense. In simple past tense, following structure should be followed. Was, were, and past participle. Inian cultivated the land was cultivated by Inian. Here, was represents the simple past tense. Next, we will see simple future. The modal verb will give the sense of future tense. When you are going to change a simple future tense from active voice to passive voice, the following structure should be followed. Will be and past participle of the given verb. Inian will cultivate the land becomes the land will be cultivated by Inian. Let's go to next tense. Present continuous tense. Normally, continuous tense will have a continuous verb, that is verb plus ing. In other words, it is called present participle preceding by a to be verb. Changing continuous tense from active, passive voice structure follows. To be verb plus being plus past participle. Let's see the example. Inian is cultivating the land is transformed to be the land is being cultivated by Inian. There is no change in the basic verbal structure of the passive voice, but at the same time, it should accommodate the tense in the active voice. For past continuous follows the same structure, but was or were is used in the place of am, is, or. Inian was cultivating the land is changed to the land was being cultivated by Inian. Now we will see present perfect tense. For present perfect tense, the structure follows have or has been and past participle. Inian has cultivated the land is changed to the land has been cultivated by Inian. For past perfect tense, the structure follows had been and past participle. Inian had cultivated the land is transformed to be the land has been cultivated by Inian. For future perfect tense, the structure follows: will have been and past participle. Indian will have cultivated the land is transformed to be the land will have been cultivated by Indian. We have seen 8 types of tenses which are changed from active voice to passive voice. We don't see other 4 types of tenses. Let's see what they are and why they are not used frequently. Future continuous tense, present perfect continuous tense, past perfect continuous tense, future perfect continuous tense. In such tenses, we have to make verbal phrases like be being, have been being. Using be twice back to back will make confusion for the speaker and listener. So, native speaker, avoid these 4 tenses. Now, let's see what should we do if an active voice sentence consists of 2 objects. Let's see what should we do if an active voice sentence has 2 objects. Look at the example. My father gave me a pen. In this sentence, me and a pen are the 2 objects. Me is an indirect object, a pen is a direct object. You can make 2 passive voice sentences. Most of the time, a person is taken as the subject. Let's see how to change indirect object to subject. I was given a pen by my father. When you are going to change direct object in the active voice to subject in the passive voice, you have to add to or for before the person or indirect object in the sentence. A pen was given to me by my father. Let's see what if the sentence is so lengthy. For example, India beat Sri Lanka in the World Cup final. It doesn't matter how long the sentence is. We need to go by basics. First, we need to analyze the sentence structure. Then, interchange the position of subject and object. Never worry about the adjunct or complement. Let's see the transformation. Sri Lanka was beaten by India in the World Cup final. Sri Lanka was beaten in the World Cup final by India. Both transformations are acceptable. What if the sentence is interrogative when you are going to change active voice to passive voice? Look at the example. Who broke the window? It is transformed to be by whom was the window broken. Here, the verbal structure isn't changed, but the position of be form verb and past participle go with as per the question. And finally, what if the sentence happens to be an imperative sentence? Imperative sentence in the passive follows the structure. Let object be and past participle to become passive voice. Open the door is changed to be let the door be opened. Now let's sum up. Our subject of the discussion decides what type of voice we should use. When you are going to change active voice to passive voice, you need to interchange the position of subject and object between the sentences. Subject to object, object to subject. The verbal structure of the passive voice follows to be verb and past participle of the lexical verb. When you are going to change active to passive, you should not do any changes in the meaning, tense, and sentence type. The changes occur only in the structure. Let's move to the exercise. 2 exercises are given. You will be given enough time. Try to give answers in the given time. I hope you enjoy the learning passivization. Learn passivization properly. It will help other learning.